When I say Amy Winehouse, what is the first thing that pops up in your head? Perhaps you vaguely remember her black thick eyeliner or beehive hair. Perhaps you remember listening to her breakout single Rehab on the radio. Perhaps you don't know her at all. But like most people, you probably remember her as that addict, that alcoholic, or that girl that died in that 27 Club thing. I kind of thought of her this way as well. That is until I listened to her 2 albums in full. Then my association of her completely changed. She wasn't some random alcoholic. She was a thoughtful, talented, and beautiful musician whose public persona tragically overshadows her work. In this speech, I want to convince you that Amy Winehouse is the greatest musician of the 2000s. First, we will take a qualitative look at her music and explore the merits of her music itself. Then, we will take a more quantitative approach and look at how her music has impacted the pop genre and pop culture. Finally, I want to take a deep dive into her legacy and examine why we remember her in a certain way. So first off, why is her music good at all, right? So earlier this year, the Rolling Stones published their article of their top 500 greatest albums of all time. Amy Winehouse's sophomore album, Back to Black, ranked number 33 on their top 500 list, and she was one of the 6 females to rank even in the top 50. So, what makes good music? To me, there's 3 things: voice, lyrics, and sound. First off, Amy Winehouse's voice. So why is Amy Winehouse's voice so great? How is it different than everybody else's voice? A lot of what we consider to be good female singers right now in the 2000s have been what we call diva voice. It's people like Mariah Carey, Celine Dion, Ariana Grande, Christina Aguilera. They're good singers, but unless they're belting out some really high tone or they're doing some fancy vibrato, it's really nothing out of the ordinary. Amy Winehouse's voice, however, is something special. She doesn't need all this fancy high belting noises to really impress people. Just by opening her mouth, you already get shivers. You could feel almost a direct connection to her soul just from her voice. And it's on the same plane as some of the greatest female vocalists of all time, like Sarah Vaughan, Billie Holiday, or Ella Fitzgerald. I think The Guardian puts it better. Quote, "It was a snappy, ragged, extraordinary, expressive contralto that still carried some of the nasal North London drawl of her speaking voice, perfect for conveying both heartbreak and sass." To really drive the point home, here's a video of her obviously drunk, yet singing the jazz standard Lullaby of Birdland. I don't know if you've ever been drunk before, but it's really hard to sing well, or even sing at all. Yet in this clip, not only is she singing perfectly on tune and with emotion and with soul, she's also improvising little melodic bits as if she's completely sober, which goes to show her true natural talent. Great, so that was Amy Winehouse's voice. Now let's take a look at her lyrics. What makes her lyrics so special? What I really like about her music is the fact that she uses poetic imagery to capture moments or feelings that are relatable. In my favorite song, Wake Up Alone, she talks about how, she's okay in the day because she's so distracted, yet at night she feels her thoughts wander everywhere and she keeps thinking about her ex-boyfriend. So from the chorus, it reads, "He floats me with dread," "He's fierce in my dreams, seizing my guts. He floats me with dread. Soaked in soul, he swims in my eyes by the bed. Pour myself over him, moon spilling in, and I wake up alone." Right, this imagery of the moon spilling in, her being soaked in soul, and him swimming in her eyes. This is poetry, and it perfectly captures this niche emotion that I had always felt, but I've never been able to really express or capture until I listened to this song. And the general story that her lyrics are telling are even more compelling and relatable. She purposely paints herself as this flawed person, and she's honest about her true stories, right? In her song, I Heard Love is Blind, she tries to justify cheating on her partner because, well, he kind of looked like you, so it technically doesn't count. In her song, Stronger Than Me, she complains about her boyfriend who is 7 years older than her, yet acts so needy and needs so much care. Yet, and in her song, What Is It About Men, she explores her destructiveness around men and how it probably has to do with her parents' divorce. It's her, quote, Freudian fate. And that's what people can truly relate to, right? We are not perfect human beings, we're flawed, and hearing all these songs about having perfect love stories and stuff like that, it's not truly relatable, it's just a bop. But when we hear a song that is really relatable and shows, hey, we're not perfect people, that really connects with you on a deeper level. So third is her sound. Why is her sound so special compared to other artists? So Amy Winehouse doesn't really have a set genre. It's a bit of a mix of jazz, 60s girl group pop, soul, and R&B. And even though it has all these nostalgic elements to it, it also sounds really new and inventive. So you're kind of getting this mix of both, and it's a perfect balance between the two. Additionally, the production on her tracks isn't very complicated. It's just her singing, a couple instruments, and a band behind her, and that's it. It really feels like you're in this intimate setting with her, and you really feel connected just because her voice really shines on her tracks. So honestly, all this criteria of her music, like whether or not you like her music, is really up to you. But her impact on the music industry is something that is a little bit harder to debate, which brings us to our next topic: her impact on the 2000s pop genre. So we can sense great music by analyzing how they've impacted the music genre itself, in this case pop, and how they've influenced other artists. So first, how has Amy Winehouse influenced the pop genre? The most important thing that she did was she triggered what is now called the British female invasion. So basically, before Amy Winehouse, the only British artist to ever make it big in America was the Beatles, which was back in the 60s. And since then, there hadn't really been a big British artist or even a female artist at all that made it big in the States. However, when Amy Winehouse's second album, Back to Black, came out, it charted at number 2 on the Billboard 100 album chart. And this started this American crave of female British artists, or just British artists in general. And that brought in artists such as One Direction, Sam Smith, Adele, Florence and the Machine, Ellie Goulding. All of these are current pop icons, right? Additionally, Amy Winehouse transformed the pop genre by renewing an interest in 50s and 60s jazz and soul. Think Blurred Lines by Robin Thicke, Stay With Me by Sam Smith, Lady Gaga's entire 2014 Cheek to Cheek album, even Ariana Grande's new song, My Hair. You can all hear bits of Amy Winehouse's influence and the style that she renewed people's interest in. So on the second note, who has been influenced by Amy Winehouse? So most notably is Adele. In an interview with the Rolling Stone, Adele said, quote, I owe 90% of my career to Amy Winehouse. Because of her, I picked up a guitar. Because of her, I write my own music. Other artists that Amy Winehouse has influenced are all names that you've probably heard of. Lady Gaga, Florence and the Machine, Billie Eilish, Lana Del Rey, Demi Lovato, Alyssa Cara, her, Georgia Smith, Dua Lipa. Basically look up any contemporary female artist and there's going to be an Amy Winehouse's name, and there's going to be an article about how they were inspired by her style or her authenticity or her imperfections even. And this really just goes to show Amy Winehouse's impact. She only had 2 albums, yet she was able to inspire a whole new generation of artists. And that really just goes to show how powerful her music was. So far we've explored why Amy Winehouse's music is some of the best in the 2000s. But do people really remember her in that way? So the other day, one of my Twitter mutuals, who is a very big Amy Winehouse fan, was in an argument with a Trump supporter on Twitter. So in the heat of the argument, this Trump supporter needed to say something that would really hit home. So this is what he replied. Obsessed with a drug-addicted singer, yikes. So that begs the question, why do we remember her in this way? When we think of artists in similar conditions, think Nirvana's Kurt Cobain, Jimi Hendrix, or more recently Mac Miller and Chester Bennington of Linkin Park, we remember them as great artists, not as alcoholics or addicts. So why is Amy Winehouse's situation any different? So I'd like you to close your eyes and remember the last time you went to a grocery store. I know, it's been a while. Right, so when you get to checkout, you look to the left a bit and you see a bunch of these little magazines, right? Do they look something like this? These are called tabloids, and they're basically sensationalized stories about the personal lives of celebrities. They deploy paparazzi to celebrities' houses and follow them around to restaurants and get the scoop by paying people close to them to give them information. And they're the reason for this. They're also the reason why you probably remember Britney Spears as this. And they're also, unfortunately, the reason that many people remember Amy Winehouse as this. Tabloids are unfortunately a response to our capitalist society who is obsessed with seeing the worst in people. The crazier the story, the more they sell and the more money they make. Tabloids seem to sensationalize any time a woman acts crazy, or looks fat, or looks too skinny, or has an addiction, or dates too much. The list goes on and on and on. And Amy Winehouse was a very easy target for these paparazzis because she gave out the most content, right? She was clearly anorexic. She was clearly not sober most of the time. She would get into public fights. She would show up in public with blood on her shoes. So, you see, Amy Winehouse wasn't a perfect person. She was deeply flawed. But being constantly hounded by cameras and constantly being stalked and constantly being made a laughingstock isn't helpful, especially if you're clearly going through a lot and trying to recover from an addiction. Unfortunately, she never recovered, and she passed away infamously on an alcohol overdose when she was only 27. So far we've talked about why I think Amy Winehouse's music is some of the greatest by exploring her voice, lyrics, and sound. Then we discussed a bit about how Amy Winehouse's music has impacted modern pop music and other modern pop artists. Finally, we talked about Amy Winehouse's legacy and how that reflects on tabloid and pop culture. To wrap up, I want to show this video clip from the Associated Press of George Lopez. Right, so this is at the Grammys, and she's just been nominated for one. And this is the highest accolade that any musician can ever even dream of, right? Yet, this great accomplishment is still overshadowed by her negative public persona. And she's made a laughingstock instead of being praised. So why does this matter? What is the big takeaway? I hope that seeing the dichotomy between Amy's great musical career and her public image invites you to question the negative perceptions of certain public figures and why we judge them in certain ways. Right? Think about all the people around you or the public people that all have some negative connotations behind them, like Britney Spears or Miley Cyrus or Justin Bieber or Lindsay Lohan. Take a step back and think about why you remember those people in a certain way and whether or not they're truly deserving of that criticism, because sometimes you could be missing out on gold. So, thank you for watching and listening, and if you haven't already, please go check out Amy Winehouse's music. It is the best music that exists in my opinion, and you'll definitely not be disappointed. Thank you.